Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, and this is a special session of the North Liberty City Council to discuss our budget. And Tracy, could we take a roll call, please?
Fortney. Here. Leibel.
Here.
Park.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Wason.
Here. Thank you all for being here. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. It is in front of you. Could I just have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brent. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval. Agenda has been approved. Ryan, let's move on to item 4, which is our general fund. I'm going to turn the discussion over to you.
Okay, great. I thank you, everyone, for coming in early tonight. I want to just walk through the process very quickly. It's very similar to what you've experienced in previous years. As we talk through the proposed FY27 budget, and tonight we're focusing really on the operational side of things, and that's why the room is full with our management team, who has been this group's been working on this budget probably since September in some cases. So I think we're all relieved to be at this point, and we'll be even more relieved at the end of January when hopefully we have this process put to bed for another year. So tonight, I will go through each of these categories. Russ is out there leading the screen or navigating the screen in front of you. So I'll look to him when I want him to change a slide. And what I would ask is that after we get through each category, then will be an opportunity for the City Council to ask questions to me or ask for further clarification from one of our management team members. So with that, we're going to jump right into general fund revenues. And Russ, I think that's page 10 on here, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's a little further in, but yeah. Right, there we go. Thank you. So as I noted in the memo, we've put little comments on areas areas of significance, but I do want to touch on a few other things. And, revenues, general fund revenues in particular, are probably what gives me the most anxiety each year as we wait for the tax valuations from the county, and they have to submit those to us by January 1, and they did that this year. And what we saw from a valuation standpoint is about a 5.25% increase in value. That means most of that would be through growth. We actually saw a rollback this year on residential property dip about 2.9%. So to have that come in at 5.25%, I was surprised to see it that high, a bit relieved, although there was still some work to do, and we'll get into that here in a bit. Now you might think because we saw our valuations go up 5.25%, we'd see revenue go up as much, and that's just not the case with the new tax law, fairly new tax law now approved in 23. And I mentioned this in the text part of the packet, the memo part. But the actual revenue growth on what we used to call our 810 levy is 3.22%. So a couple percent less than our actual valuation growth. And again, that's a direct result of the law that rationing back the city's ability to generate revenue. A couple other things I would note. A more positive note in the general fund revenues is, it's not all about property taxes, although you can see on one of the graphs in here, it makes up a big percentage of the general fund. We continue, as you all know and see every time we meet, we continue to see growth, and as a result, we continue to see permitting fees come in at a solid pace. We also have a very well-used community center that generates various fees and charges for all the programming and activities that are hosted there. So those fees for charges are steady as well. And then over the last couple years, we've started, I guess I'd use the term negotiating with banks on where we're putting our money so that we're leveraging the best interest rate we can for the cash that we have on hand. And so we've seen interest income increase over the last couple years as well. And then the last thing I would note here is that from the SAFER grant, which you can see a little further down on this spreadsheet here, this is the first year where we're seeing a significant decline in those funds. And that, if you recall, we were approved funds 3 years ago already to fund 3 full-time firefighters. And so those are going away. We knew that was coming and tried to prepare for that. The last thing I would say about revenues is that I mentioned the state law change. Russ, can you go forward a page, I think? Other way? Why don't you go one more page? Right here, I think this gives you a good snapshot, and this was included in the memo as well. But you can see in FY27, we would have had the ability to generate an extra $800,000 had that law not been in place. Now, does that mean we would have? Probably not, but the ability would have been there. And I think you're just going to continue to see this exacerbate. And as property tax reform is talked about at the state level, I think many of us around this table and out there are nervous about what's to come. So again, just a snapshot there of how that impacts our general fund. Russ, if you want to go back to the general fund revenues. And I would ask at this time if there are any questions from the group on the revenue side of things.
Ryan, did I hear you say that the residential growth went down?
The rollback.
It was the rollback. Yeah. Okay, yes.
So in theory, though, yes, that would drive residential growth down. And so I'll get to this a little bit later, but on the very last page of the packet, you can see what that rollback does to residential property taxes. It will reduce burdens this year.
Yep. Any questions for Ryan on this so far?
Mayor, just one. Remind me, Ryan, when was the last time we did any increases on permits or considered increases on building permits and print reviews and plan reviews?
Recently.
Yeah, we have not. Well, Russ, do you have a recollection here? I'm going to speak out of turn.
I don't, but we are planning on reevaluating those for.
Okay. And I believe if I remember correctly, aren't the building permit fees established by
In the building code.
Yeah, in the building code itself? Do you happen to recall? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but okay. All right. Well, one of the things we'll talk about is the fact that our building and planning departments have combined, and so Russ is looking at a lot of things that maybe haven't been looked at in a while, and it sounds like that will be one of them.
Yeah, I think, Mayor, I think that's a place that, pending legislation, a place that we really need to look just for, revenue generation is there. And if it's been a while, look at those increases. We're a growing city. Building permits remain high. We have interest in wanting to build here and grow here, and we want to use that as a revenue generator.
Well, if there are no other questions, and I don't mean to get too quick with the pages, but Russ, let's go back to, I think it'd be really the first page of the model, public safety. One more. Thank you. So we're going to start tonight by talking about public safety, and I'll get through each one of these categories and then offer the council an opportunity to ask questions or speak on any of these. So you can see, actually, our police department budget is proposed to go down just slightly. The staffing levels are remaining the same, and as we have a younger department, they're newer in the pay scale, so that's why you're seeing that number go down a bit. I do think it's worth noting it doesn't really have a budget impact, as you can see here, but The chief has been working with Johnson County and Coralville. We've been working with a single mental health liaison that splits her time between the three organizations. The sheriff has come across some state funding that will allow us to bring in another liaison for the same price that we're paying now for just the one. So we're happy about that. We can, it's, when you have just the one liaison, the one person who is dedicated towards mental health, that person can't be here around the clock. So it gives us a few more hours during the day to have that service available. I would note we're replacing a couple squad cars, and you'll see we replaced a couple last year, and we'll continue to replace in the future years. And the chief can talk a little bit more about this, but what we've done recently is allowed our cars to accumulate more miles before trading them in. That seems to have been working okay for the time being, so we'll continue to do that. So when it's time, though, when these cars hit that threshold, it's time. I just sat in a meeting today, and they were talking about a transmission problem on one that we're getting ready to get rid of in July, that we might just let it sit there for the rest of the year until we're ready to get rid of it. So we try to really use these vehicles until there's no serviceable, until the maintenance fees really become an issue. I would just move on here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these areas that really haven't changed much, like emergency management as an example. And if you want to talk further about that outside of this meeting, we certainly can. But fire is where you're going to see the biggest change in public safety, or biggest proposed change. And here what we're trying to do is continue to attack that staffing plan to get that station fully staffed. I tried to outline what the proposed plan is in the memo, but essentially we are suggesting to add 2 more full-time firefighters that give us 3 shifts of 2 people fully staffed, and then the chief can use, ideally we have 3 on each shift, and so the chief then can use part-time and paid per call folks to fill in that gap. So that's what you're seeing there is the most significant increase. We always note that we replaced a certain amount of turnout gear each year, and so that's what you're seeing in the capital outlay. We've done that annually now for quite some time. Moving on to building safety, I would note that you'll see a decrease in this budget as well. As I mentioned, we merged departments, and Russ is taking the helm of what we're now calling the PBD, the Planning, Building, and Development Department. And we will continue to look for ideas there to be more efficient, and we have some ideas that we're kicking around right now in terms of adjusting, not so much adjusting staffing levels, but adjusting where people are at. So more to come on that, but I think it's been the transition has went I think really well, especially considering Tom Palmer had so many years of institutional knowledge, and so he was certainly an asset, and Russ is doing a nice job taking over. I would note, and we'll talk about this a little bit, there are a few purchases, one-time purchases, that we're proposing to use FY25 surplus funds with. And I got into some detail that in the memo. In the building department, where we do need to pick up an inspector vehicle, and so we're looking at, we'll be proposing using a small amount of surplus funds for that purchase. And then lastly is animal control, and that budget's staying pretty steady for FY27. So, questions on public safety?
I have one. Right now, the mental health liaisons, we have one that we share the cost with the county
And Coralville.
and Coralville. And then our new one, is that fully paid for by the grant?
Go ahead.
No, it'll be shared between the grant, Coralville, Johnson County, and North Liberty. So it's kind of that fourth. Everybody pays a quarter of it for that person. But it's the same cost that we're currently paying for our current mental health liaison.
So the grant is basically like a fourth entity that's sharing the cost.
And when we originally budgeted for this, we did not have the grant available, so we budgeted for the full salary between the three entities, and now the grant came in, so really, we're kind of getting two for the price of one with the money that we already budgeted for this mental health liaison. So the grant's really helping.
Chief, what's the percentage breakdown of usage of that liaison, would you say?
It's a great question. It just varies. So every month it's a little bit different. And of course, Kiana will create a report for us so that we can see what her use is. The thing that we're having a hard time tracking is the follow-up, because the majority of it is she's in the office. It might get called that she's at Johnson County and she'll just follow up on the phone, but really it should probably be counted towards North Liberty because she's dealing with a North Liberty resident. So we are just sharing those resources across. We can track our referrals to her, and then she can keep track of her time when she's dealing with those individuals on the back end for the follow-up.
Do you feel like what we're paying, we're getting our money's worth, and are we sharing that cost equally? Do you believe for what we're using?
I believe we are. We have a lot of issues and concerns that are happening in North Liberty, and again, some months are different than others. And so, while Coralville might be high one month and we might be a little bit low, we're going to catch up on the back end. So it does seem to be a pretty cost-effective sharing for this resource between the three entities.
Are we seeing some deferrals out of lockup with these programs?
Not necessarily the lockup. It's usually going to be the trips that are going to the hospital and or guide link. So we generally are seeing that more on the people that need to go to the lockup need to go to the lockup. There's no place else for them. So it has been the guide link and or trips to the ER.
Can you touch on the software to support internal and external engagement?
Yeah, so actually it's launched today and it's called Power Engage. And so basically what it is anytime that somebody calls dispatch and there is a cell phone number that's attached to it, you'll get an automatic response, depending on what type of call it is, about the officer's response. If there's a case number that's created, you'll also get that in a text message. If there's any safety message, like if there's a car crash and you're reporting that crash, they'll ask you if you're safe. Can you move your vehicle off the road? There's just some safety messaging with that. 4 hours after any event that we tag that we want information on, you can actually provide feedback to the officers. As we move forward in this program, it'll account for incident management, so like a case report. If evidence is sent to DCI, they'll get a notification that the evidence has been sent off. They'll get notification that evidence has been brought back. So it's just a better communication tool through text messaging about keeping up with their cases. Or if we're going to close a case, maybe 30 days later, we'll ask them if there's any additional information that they want to add to the report. They might think of something, I forgot this, and they didn't notify the officers. Then it's just prompting information sharing between both entities. And they can also provide feedback to officers, which we're going to share with our staff for the positive feedback, again, help increase morale. That's just one piece. There's a second component that we're looking at, and it's called Power Vitals. Basically what it is, it's a mental health services for law enforcement. So if they're responding to significant car crashes, deaths, baby deaths, CPR in progress, any of those things that are high anxiety for officers, it'll flag the supervisor to know, hey, do a mental health follow-up on this officer, make sure they're doing okay.
So that's in addition to what we already have and use?
This is brand new. We just started today with the Power Engage, and we're going to keep adding these additional software packages to our piece. We currently are providers for our scheduling software, and this is one other piece that we've been looking at for a couple of years. We just had the money now that we could start implementing this program. And then a third one that is also included in here is a public information piece about, it's called Next Request. And so it's really about handling our records when they're coming in, where they're tracking, if they're going to legal, wherever they're going throughout the city if needed. So those are the software pieces that we're looking into to try to help us keep track of what's coming in and going out.
Thank you.
Very cool.
So just as on the police cars and when you're getting new squad cars, how much of that do you think is really moving the electronics and adding all that stuff in there? Because I think that's really forgot.
The majority of it. So the cost of the equipment in the vehicle is as much as the vehicle. Really disappointing. And then they make the cars just like they do anything else. Nothing is adaptable. So if, a new cage can't go from a Dodge to a Ford or even a new Dodge. So they just change it every single time. So we have to buy new every time. We're about 4 years on our cars now, and we bumped it up to 120,000 miles. Yeah, it's disheartening, but we just have to do it. We want them safe and operating effectively.
What happens to the cars that are being retired? Do they go to other law enforcement, or are they stripped down and sold out?
They're completely stripped down. We want to make sure North Liberty Police, all of that is taken off of it. So they are completely stripped. They'll auction them off. Some people will buy them. They're not worth a ton of money, but I mean, these cars are they sit out there and idle. They're used hard. So,
Yeah.
but people still buy them. They still go to an auction house. We just strip them down so they can't be traced back to North Liberty Police Department.
Any other questions? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other public safety questions?
Ryan, on the fire side, Chief, you want to, so I've seen 24 grand on your turnout gear. What's your replacement schedule, and how does that get us into NFPA compliancy with your numbers?
Yeah, all of our gear goes out after 10 years. Helmets, boots, turnout coats, pants.
So we don't have any outside of NFPA gear in
We do
use
not.
right now? Good.
We do not. We do have some in the building. We typically will put brand new people in that gear. Obviously, they're not going into IDLH environments, but at least they can crawl around and tear that stuff up before we get them new gear.
So 24 grand is how many sets? What's that
Boy,
getting?
we're just under $4,000 per coat and pant right now.
Okay.
And so another $350 for helmets and $400 for boots. So you're talking right around $5,000 per set. Largely, we use that for a lot of our part-timers. Our SAFER grant that Chief Smoke wrote still takes care of a lot of our brand new pay per call personnel to the tune of $30,000 a year in gear. So obviously with that, we find success with keeping this amount at $24,000 just because we don't go through as many part-timers as we do pay per call.
For the non-fire guy here, what exactly is turnout gear?
It's the structural firefighting suit that we wear.
Got it.
Helmet, coat, pants, boots, gloves, no mix hood.
So to drill down on that a little bit, is it replacement recommended on a schedule, or is that based on years that it's since it was purchased, or is it hours that it's been worn?
Years since the day you purchased.
Okay.
Yep.
And then with your two new FTEs, just remind our council what coverage that's going to gain.
Absolutely.
And how that does or does not decrease our turnout times and our response times right now.
Yeah. As Ryan indicated, we have a goal of putting 3 people in the fire station 24/7, so we can respond to any incident. Right now, with the 4 operational full-timers, we have 2 on one shift, 1 on each of the other 2 shifts. So adding 2 full-time will bring each shift up to 2 full-time people. Obviously, the ask here is predicated on the lack of availability that we're seeing with our part-timers and our pay-per-call folks. Wonderful people. We have great part-timers, great pay-per-call, but obviously we're not their priority in their life. They have full-time jobs, they have families, so their availability isn't always that great. Right now, we're asking them to, in order to realize 24/7 with 3 people, we're asking them to staff 23 and a half 12-hour shifts per week. And with 18 part-timers, that's very difficult. A lot of them like to do 1 a week. As you can imagine, we have to overstaff then when we can't get part-time with our pay-per-call folks, and we do have a stipend program for them. However, it's difficult because not only are we not realizing their availability. In other words, I think just this last month we had 12 or 13 12-hour shifts that went unfilled. And if you look back 6 months, it's anywhere from 8 to 18 shifts a month that go unfilled just because they don't have availability. So then we'll try to backfill them with our paid per call folks. And what we're finding is that we're overusing our stipend money. We do have a SAFER grant that allows us to nominally pay our volunteers, but we're ahead of the curve on that stipend money just because we're trying to get some of those gaps covered in the hopes that the full-timers are coming. Obviously, we can adjust that up and down, but yeah, that's that's the correction that we're trying to make, is that lack of availability of part-time. Just today we had a gentleman call in because he got overtime on his full-time job. And so we had to quickly try to backfill his position. And that happens quite routinely, unfortunately. And with respect to turnout time, our ability to put 3 people in the fire station greatly enhances that turnout time. Right now, there are a number of times that we still have calls when we only have 2 people in the station and they have to wait for a third. Whether that's administrative staff, whether that's somebody coming from 4 blocks away because they live South Front Street. There's a variety of reasons for that. But putting 3 people in the fire station allows us to greatly realize success with our turnout goals. I hope I answered your question.
Are you rolling medicals with just 2?
We are.
So when you
not all the time. We are when we have to. There are days as well, though, that if we have 4 people in the station, we may send 2 on a medical call, largely because it's not that far away. And if they have to beat feet back to the station, they can. But we also know that we have reinforcements in the building, such as when we have administrative staff in the building, that we can roll an engine. So we do play that shell game a little bit, but I think we do it in a very calculated, successful way.
Thank you.
So with a new station, a better amenities, do you think that'll help recruiting?
I do. I have no way to quantitatively demonstrate that, but youngsters young 20-year-olds that come into the fire station as we give tours and things like that, in order to try to recruit them and get them to join up. I'm pretty sure that's going to play a role. I know that other departments have anecdotally indicated to us that once they open the door of their new fire station, they have people, 3 or 4 people knock on the door the next month, want to join. Now, I don't know. I just know, believe that will help quite a bit. How can it not, right?
Yep. So well, we will work to get it done.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions for Chief while he's up here? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else for public safety?
Just curious, animal control, or how busy are we?
Well, I would defer to Chief or Michael on that. They kind of operate that area together.
Animal control, since we've started that position, of course, the calls for service have just been increasing. So it seems like about 60 a month. That's a pretty good number that he's responding to or doing follow-ups or doing all those. So it's quite a bit.
Wow. 60?
60 calls for service. That will either he's responding to a call or he's following up on a call that he's transporting an animal or doing whatever he needs to do with. It's pretty often.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. We will move on to Public Works. Clarify, this is Public Works within the general fund. So you'll see we don't have anything in roads, bridges, and sidewalks. That's all funded through road use tax, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. We do fund crossing guards in this section, and you can see there's a nominal change there. That's just to pay those crossing guards during the school year. Solid waste is really an in and an out. You're seeing that $2 million there. We collect on behalf of the solid waste company. It goes out then back to them to pay for the garbage services of our residents. Lastly is the transit budget, and we're proposing to keep this the same this year as we explore alternatives for the fixed route service that will be ending June 30. We will be, in fact, I don't think Angie's here, but she's working on an RFP now that will be going out in February, and we'll be soliciting requests for folks who can, or companies that can help us supplement the big blue bus service that will be going away. So for now, we feel comfortable keeping this line item where it's at, and then seeing what the future holds as we get into those RFPs. Public Works is always a little easier one. Any questions on that? If not, we'll move forward to Health and Social Services. And this particular year is relatively easy as well, because you might recall we funded, we're on a 2-year cycle for funding these grant applications. We did it in FY26, so in FY27, the allocations remain the same. I will stop me if you want. I'm going to keep rolling ahead here.
Do we intend to, is there a possibility that other organizations may ask for more in the second year, or was there a contingency plan region-wide through this process to allow for that to happen?
Well, I'll take this, and if Tracy wants to jump in, she can. I happen to sit on the United Way board, and what I've learned throughout my time there is that the organizations who are already involved, who had applied through Coralville, I would say Johnson County, prior to us getting on that system, really understand that it's a 2-year deal. Okay. And so unless it's a dire emergency, and we saw some of that this year with federal funds being cut, they know this is what they get. So we don't anticipate it, but certainly something could pop up where, and their first step is usually the United Way to say, hey, how can you help us? And then they bring in their partners in cities and counties to see if there's anything we can do.
So in that way, if there is a request like that, how would we attempt to cover it if it weren't inside of this budget already?
Yeah, we'd have to either amend the budget at that time, or look for another revenue source depending on what that request is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a healthier way to approach it if it happens, instead of trying to guess and set aside dollars and then it doesn't happen.
We think so.
Okay.
And of course, we're hoping that the organization in need is not just looking at the cities either, that they're looking at other entities to help whatever the situation might be.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, we'll move on to culture and recreation. Bear with me here. This might be a little bit of a lengthy one, but we'll start off with the library budget. We're looking at adding 10 hours a week of part-time help into this budget. The library employees play an important role in a lot of our city slate events. And so this, by bringing on some additional part-time hours, it allows our full-timers to be a little more flexible in helping with those very popular events. And then just some additional operating increases in janitorial supplies and services. You'll see the same thing in City Hall as we continue to work with the same janitorial company. And then also some additional IT hardware to increase the wireless availability at the library. Parks, buildings, and grounds, no new staffing is proposed this year. Really, the one thing I wanted to note here, a couple things, is we have $50,000 in there for a facility, our new facility manager's truck. You might remember we brought this person on last year and didn't really have a way to operate, so he's using one of the police department vehicle that I think's it's got to be close to 18 years old, that truck, but it's working for now, but we need to get him in something else. And then I noted this in my memo, but over the past few years, when we were looking for ways to kind of push and pull this general fund budget, Guy would always get a call from me, and I appreciated that he answered because I'm sure he knew what I wanted to talk to him about, and that was looking at scaling back an equipment purchase here or there. Well, I would say that it's getting close to catching up with us, and so we need to put some money back into some parks equipment. And so we're proposing to pull $175,000 from the FY25 surplus to help fund various pieces of equipment that I have listed in the document. And I just remind folks, not that you need reminded because you make comments on it regularly, but we have some exceptional looking parks and roundabouts and medians and properties, and it takes an investment to make that happen. And so we're trying to continue to provide that quality service. Moving on to recreation, again, the bigger piece here is replacing a BASP van. This is number 2. We're on a 4-year cycle here. We have 4 of these vans, and this is year 2 of 4 that we want to get in here and replace the dated vans. There's no change in the community center operating budget. I would note, though, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at the next meeting, just about maintenance funding for the community center. And I believe I have the you don't need to switch to this, Russ, but this document was in here for more of a reference for you folks, and we'll talk about it more next meeting. But we do have a community center capital fund that lists out a bunch of the projects and/or the annual designation of funds, just to be sure we have some money available in case something happens at that facility. You've heard us talk about this. It's 30 years old. It's a great facility, but it takes a little bit more money to operate at this point. So while that budget line item remains flat, we will be talking a little bit about putting some money aside for other projects at our meeting next week. Cemetery budget, we have an agreement with the township trustees, and we help fund mowing out at the cemetery. That's really what this is. You'll notice in FY25 there was no cost. Their billing sometimes is a little slow, so there'll be a double cost in FY26. And they're volunteers as well, so we just roll with the punches there. It turns out to be about $40,000 a year. And then lastly, in the aquatic center, really no significant changes. We continue to, we have to pay a premium dollar for lifeguards. That is just a job market that is really difficult right now, and we've heard of, in smaller communities, pools closing because they don't have the lifeguards. So Shelley and her team have done a really nice job. Ashley is our aquatic supervisor, done a great job of recruiting and retaining lifeguards so that we can have access to that swimming pool in the summer. So that is culture and recreation. Questions?
So, Guy, how long are those mowers lasting? How many seasons?
The 3 that we're replacing, 2 of them are 15 models, and another one is a 19.
Yeah. So you've done a good job maintaining them, but
Yeah.
they wear out. Yeah. So.
Yeah, after so many hours, they tend to wear out a little.
I'm always surprised when I see you driving around in that older Toyota truck. Nissan.
You should have been here when he bought it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much? I mean, I've been doing this a couple of years, and I've expected to see a new vehicle in there somewhere. How long can that last? And I guess I would like to see you be able to get a newer truck, and maybe the old Toyota could go, no offense, but to the building inspector or the facilities manager. And I just think our culture and recreation, you guys do such a good job. I just that's what I would like to see or talk about.
Well, that truck, I have a little sentimental value with that.
I think I do too, Guy.
It's got history.
Yeah, it's got some history.
It is a
That's a 2000
2007.
The 2007, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think to your
many
point
miles?
about reusing equipment, we do try to do that. And so I think Shelley can speak to that a little bit. We have an old Jeep. I mean, it's a Jeep Liberty. It's actually in pretty bad shape. I saw it the other day, but that got passed down from building inspection. So we do try to get as much out of these vehicles as we can without it turning into a maintenance nightmare. So point taken.
I think you like the CD player in it the best.
Oh,
don't you?
sorry?
The CD player that's in
CD
your
player?
truck.
Yeah.
The leather seats.
Leather seats?
leather seats,
yeah. Let's not go there, Tracy.
There are no leather seats in that vehicle. Okay.
Just a question
can
for me,
laugh.
Guy. It might be more HR related. Just looking at some of the labor, we've got call outs for adding new firefighters for fire, and even the part-time work for the library. Say, hey, we're adding 10 hours here. Just looking at a percentage wise of the labor cost, it's rather. Is that just right sizing wages? We're not adding staff? Can you just maybe explain that cost increase a little bit from a percentage standpoint? It just looks like it's considerable.
Oh, I can probably take that.
Thank
Okay.
you. I just
It's
some
probably due
clarity,
to
yeah.
the title changes.
Yeah.
More than likely, yeah.
So in addition to, we have 10 full-timers
Yeah.
that will all see an increase. And then we have, I think we have $138,000 in there for part-time work too. So we bumped that up just a little bit, just to not necessarily adding new people, but getting in line with kind of what it's looking like this year.
Yeah, no, I remember the exercise we did not too
Yeah.
long ago looking at all the wages.
Yeah.
So that's why I was just wondering.
But the other issue here is we did reclassify a couple longer-term
Yeah.
employees.
No,
And so,
that's perfectly acceptable. I just wanted some
Yep.
sure.
understanding.
Good
Thank you.
Anything else for Guy? What?
So just to clarify, you're going to drive it till the wheels fall off? And then what, though? Serious question.
Well, if I can make it to retirement with it, that'd be my second truck that I've driven here.
Guy, isn't that one's on the list, isn't it?
Yes, I'm just trying to.
Okay, yeah.
It was on the list this year, but it's one that we had to cut. So, or needed to cut. Not had to cut, needed to cut. So,
It's okay, Paul.
They talk about it. This is how they manage this budget so well,
yeah,
Paul.
I'm not complaining.
You wouldn't, so I'm complaining for
You're
you.
advocating for
Principal of it.
So Ryan, I guess I was a little surprised not to see at least maybe a line item or discussion on, as we look to rebuild the fire station. There's the conversation about Guy needing more space. There's the conversation about streets needing more. And does that combined need also work into relocating fire apparatus during the rebuild? Why are we not seeing money in this FY budget for some expansion that way?
We will be talking about that next week when we talk about the capital projects.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, very good.
And we will be talking about it, but in theory, we might be asking you to start that earlier than
Okay.
FY27.
Okay.
Yeah.
and storing it at your house. Anything else for Ryan?
I'm not seeing it here, but if I'm not mistaken, I saw a $200,000 grant for the community center.
$200,000 transfer to Centennial Center. Did I?
He might have been talking about the restroom.
That's
Oh,
for
well,
project. Stall.
yeah, we will talk about that. Again, that's a capital project. We'll talk about that a little bit next week as well. The idea there, though, is that, and Jenny and I have talked about this at length, but the idea there is that project is contingent on grant funding. So they got a real, I shouldn't say real small, it was a nice size $10,000 grant to do some planning, but that'll be contingent. That project will be contingent on future grant funding. But again, we'll talk more about that when we talk about the capital project piece.
But that would be for the community center, not the Centennial Center. Is that right?
Right. There is $200,000 related to the community center, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Got it.
Okay, we'll move on to community and economic development. Our economic development budget remains steady That is because most of these, actually, I think all of these requests, for example, to Greater IC or to UNESCO or to the EDC are multi-year asks. So they were in the middle of a 3 or 5 year pledge for all these folks. So those numbers stay consistent. Planning and zoning budget remains relatively steady, as you can see. And community relations, you're seeing a big change here, a big decrease here, because we're changing up, at least this year, the way we supplement the Hy-Vee Centennial Center operating budget. And I can talk about that in just a minute, but before I do, I would ask if there are any questions on this particular page.
Mayor, I always like a recap on UNESCO and what they're doing for us. We've invested $50,000 over the last 5 years. What is that getting North Liberty? I think that's always a good reminder.
We have, what I'll do is ask John Kenyon to come in and speak to the group. We have, Tracy just emailed me today about, I think Iowa City wanting to do an annual report. Greater IC will want to do an annual report. We usually hold them off until after our budgets after this process is done. So late February, March, early April, we'll look to see if those guys can come in.
Sounds good.
Let's jump, Russ, if you want to jump to, it's 3 or 4 or 5 pages up here, the Hy-Vee Center. Yes, thank you. And just a quick note on that, since we just did talk about community relations. So what we're proposing to do here, we're still obviously early in this process, being opened less than a year, kind of feeling our way for how many events we can, we have the capacity from a staffing perspective to manage in a year. So what we're proposing is a $200,000 transfer from the FY25 surplus to help fund the Centennial Center this year. Well, you all right there, Russ?
Russ?
I think you might have. Thank you. Okay, so sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
We were concerned for Russ there.
Yeah, I was.
We will.
So the $200,000 really just helps supplement the costs of this facility. And like I said, we're still feeling our way out here. But in addition, we're proposing to add a part-time, what we're calling event lead to this budget, just to give our planning coordinator, Angela, a little just some assistance, because things are really kind of heating up there, and what we've quickly found is one person can't do it all. So that's what we're proposing in this particular budget here. And Nick is here and can answer any questions you have about the Hy-Vee Center, if you have any. If not, we'll bounce back to general government. Russ is back with us here.
Ryan, I actually do want to go back. We can't let Nick off that easy.
Okay.
So what's kind of the goals? We are adding staff. We got one full-time, one half-time. Are we forecasting the ability for this to be, a pay even or ahead for the FTE costs? Are we going to be able to add staff with some of those projections of what you're seeing coming in earlier? Kind of what's our plan there?
Yeah, so I think when I presented the budget, of course, Ryan makes that sucking sound with his mouth and does this head rub thing. We opened in October. Our goal is to break even. Okay. And we're trying, and our concern, of course, is as we project numbers on this facility where we have a very short track record, is we want to be super conservative. But we also know that weekends are going to be our big take homes, right? Those are the days we've got our higher rates. And so in order to do that, we know that we need to make sure that she's not working every weekend. As a mom with young kids, that's not going to work for us. So our current goal has been to have one dark weekend a month. And we're seeing, right, but we also know that there's revenue to be had during wedding season, right? And that's going to compete with our amphitheater. We're still working through exactly how, can I use this word in polite company? The house nut from our shows. So, right, when we do a show with the Englert, that will pay back into, right? That's not just a free of charge thing. There will be money that comes back into that. So our goal is to break even here over time, or at least continue to reduce that.
When we have the ability to adjust those rates as we have additional needs or we see more use of the facility.
We do.
Yes. Yeah, and as you folks have talked about, we're working really hard to make sure that we're both accessible, but also, right, people are paying a fair rate.
Yeah, and I shared this with Ryan. I shared it at a couple of other board meetings this last month. I've already heard that people with that feedback of how affordable it is to citizens that are wanting to use it for weddings, graduations. So that price point that you guys spent a lot of time researching and figuring out seems to be hitting well, and people are going to use it a lot because it's accessible. So I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, and so having that permanent part-time position, that'll reduce. Right now we have 3 part-time folks that sort of rotate in to help with some of these events. We're looking for somebody with a little bit more ability to sort of lead and take some of those bigger pieces off of Angela. So permanent part-time there. That we also hope will give her some more capacity to go out and do sales. She did sales for Riverside before she was a stay-at-home mom and before she came here. So she's got the ability to do that too. I know she did book 2 things today, including a $3,000 booking for April. So things are going well.
Nice. Thanks for letting me go back.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to general government. Couple notes here on this page. Of course, we approved the updated wages for mayor and council in October, so that goes. We actually increased the budget in FY26 to accommodate for some of that, and just needed to, now that it'll be a full year, bump it up a little bit more. From the administrative side, one of the bigger changes on the personnel services is that we hired the finance coordinator last year, mid-year. That was a budgeted mid-year position, so now it's a full year, so we had to make that adjustment. We're seeing costs for publication, as well as we talked about earlier, janitorial contract increasing, and so we need to update those line items to account for those things. Moving on, the only other note I would make here, and most everything remains relatively the same. Obviously, there's not an election this year, so we don't have to budget for that. The information technology line item, one of the things we're doing in an attempt to better track these expenses, instead of pulling some of these from each department as they happen, we're going to have one line item for them. So in all of these budgets, we've reduced their IT needs by a little bit, knowing that the expenses will be tracked here, and we can then just have a better idea of where our IT expenses are at. So that's what we have for general government. Questions?
Only question on the IT side is on security of IT systems. A lot more cyber attack stuff happening, and there's a lot of talk about that. What are we doing infrastructure-wise to ensure that we're ahead of that game?
Well, I'm the last person you want to ask about the technical side of things of that, but I can tell you, I do send emails to Chris, our IT director, regularly about trainings and things from a listserv that I'm on, and I'll get a response, yep, we're on that, or we are aware of that. We can certainly have him come in and talk in more detail if you'd like, but I believe we've given our IT team, and they report to Tracy, so please step in if you disagree or have other comments, but I believe we've given them the tools they need. They continue to work with an outside consultant as well to make sure we are protected. Now, it doesn't mean we're never going to get hit. The risk is always there, but I would say year over year, when you look at us, every year we're getting better. If you want more technical, jazzy words, I'm going to have to bring Chris in to.
No, I just want to make sure that
We're testing things internally. Staff are tested regularly,
Yep.
whether they know it or not.
Yep.
All of our systems are updated and kept way up to date. We partner with the state for a lot of our cybersecurity.
Okay, great.
Have access to a lot of free or low-cost programs in partnership with the state on that. Chris stays, continuing education is important. He and Hoy are always learning new things about what's coming down the pipeline. Unfortunately, we can't keep up with everything because that's why cyber villains are so good, because they're always one step ahead of us. But we have a great team of two that does a lot with what the resources they have.
Yeah, I just saw, I've seen a small staff. I'm sure there's a lot of daily IT needs where they're, forced to be more reactive, where they don't have that time to look ahead and have that proactive approach. And this is a piece where I want to make sure we're learning lessons from our colleague cities across the country that are experiencing hard.
It's very
things.
important.
Yep.
Yeah, just centralizing it is a big step towards all that. So.
Okay, I'm going to jump into the summary. 2 slides up, Russ. To close out the general fund. And after all that, at the end of the day, you can see on this summary slide that we have a deficit in the FY27 budget of about $115,000. And here again, I'm sure you've read this memo multiple times, but we talk about how we'll fund that deficit in that memo by using the FY25 surplus. So we're actually going to spend more time on the FY25 surplus at the next meeting as well. And we're going to talk about that and our reserve policy. But we just to give you and you've seen it in here, but we have about right at $1.6 million of surplus that we can reallocate, and still leaves us 35% of our general fund reserve, which is 5% of above our current ceiling. So we're sitting pretty good. And I think that is a direct result of the people in front of you and their ability to continue to be efficient and smart with public tax dollars. Just a couple other notes on here. You'll see the projected ending balance of the general fund in FY27 is about $8.2 million. That is true without spending down that surplus. The plan will be to spend down that surplus, leave us about 6.8 million, which again will be right at that 35%. So we feel really good about that number. Obviously, future years, and again, these are, first of all, they're not fine-tuned, and I always tell folks we put this in here really just to give you a worst-case scenario. Obviously, we're not going to bring a budget to you in FY28 with a $1.2 million deficit.
Thank you.
But it just gives us kind of a starting place, and we'll go from there. But right now, our focus is on FY27, and from the general fund perspective, I feel pretty good about it. I think Tracy does as well. I don't want to speak for you, Tracy. And these folks out here have done a terrific job in aligning priorities and being efficient. Any final questions on the general fund?
I don't have any final questions, but I will take this opportunity to say thank you to all of you for your efforts. I know budget season, budget time is not easy. It's a system of gives and takes, pushes and pulls, sacrifice, investment, and the work and the stress and the anxiety that goes into it is not lost on me. So I just want to say thank you to all for your efforts and to get us to this spot where we can have somewhat intentional conversations about deficit and surplus and not be wowed by a $1.2 million number, that kind of thing. So thank you all.
So Ryan, always my last question is to you, because we know that there's been meetings and there's been hard discussions before they get into this room. How many FTEs were asked for versus what was budgeted for?
Well,
overall in general fund.
Yeah,
since we're still
actually, the ask was for a full-time event assistant
okay.
at Centennial.
Okay.
We just didn't feel we could do that. Otherwise, what was asked for was we tried to accommodate, not without some push and pull, obviously, and Nick talked about this head rubbing. They knew going into, they knew going into this that asking for additional full-time employees was going to be tough.
Sure.
I think when we've had this conversation over the years. So, and again, this team they just do incredible work and do what they can with what we have, it's one of the things, and the call to Brian, to Chief Platts, on the two employees was we need to get rid of a truck and what do we call that? What was that truck? It was an EMS response truck this year, and another $30,000 somewhere in the budget. Something. I think it was $30,000 to fund these two people, and for a firefighter, he does pretty good math. So, to your point, though, there was a lot of push and pull,
yep.
And this group really sees the big picture.
Let's roll on.
Okay, all right. Let's jump into road use tax. Russ, I think we're a few slides ahead here. And Michael Pentecost is our street superintendent, as you all know. And the budget here, a couple of things I'll note. We have a couple smaller pieces of equipment, relatively speaking, that Michael's looking at upgrading or replacing. A patch machine, and he can talk about that does street patch work, and then a small dump truck and plow. You're seeing the overall budget reduced by almost 7%. A big piece of that is debt. 2012 or 13 for the street shop that's down there now, using road use tax to pay that off, and so after that many years, we were able to get that paid off. And the last thing I would note on here is that, again, you're seeing a lot of red in future years, and obviously we're not going to let it get to that point. One of the things with the road use tax fund is every 10 years when a new census comes out, our revenues will jump and jump pretty significantly, assuming that our population does as well, because we're given a per capita funding for this account. So I remember back, and some of you who were on here, in the late 18-19 era, things were getting a little tight then as well, and we got the next census in and were able to recover quickly. And so that being said, we'll continue to monitor this fund. The other thing we try to do is budget revenues very conservatively. And so you can see in FY25, the actual revenues per capita was at $142. This year, even though we're budgeted at 140, it's looking like it's going to come in around $143. So I tried to give you a few examples in the memo. So in FY25, we actually budgeted for it was over $100,000 deficit in the fund, but we ended up with a $65,000 surplus. So that's a combination of Michael managing his budget very well and additional revenues coming in. So again, I don't want you to fear these red numbers. We won't let it get there. It's just giving you an idea of starting point for down the road. So I'll leave it at that. And if there are any questions, please let us know.
So this would be to add an additional patch machine, or how do we manage patching the roads currently?
This particular machine is it's a crack seal machine, so it'd be replacement of a 2010 unit, year 2010.
Got it.
Did that answer your question, Paul? Or?
It sure did.
All right, great.
How long does it take to get a dump truck, do you think? Are they still pretty tight for?
So it's been, I believe, a year and a half since we've last gotten one. So at that time, they were about 18 months out. We don't have any. This is a smaller unit. This is a smaller truck, so it shouldn't be near the problem that we would see on a larger unit.
I think we're good, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we will move right ahead then to the stormwater utility budget. As you know, we adopted new rates in FY25. We went from a flat rate, whether you were a homeowner, a renter, or a large corporation of $2 a month, to billing based on your impervious surface that a business might have in their whether it's a parking lot, their roof, et cetera. So we've seen revenues increase as a result of that, which has allowed us, one, to catch up. We had some negative balances in here, but also then to accommodate some additional stormwater projects and equipment. And the couple things I want to talk about here, and I've touched on this in the memo, but in last year's model that you saw at this meeting, we were projecting bringing on 2 new employees in what we're calling a sewer collection division. So really looking at stormwater and wastewater sewer mains, manholes, maintaining those, jetting those, inspecting those regularly. Right now, as I noticed, we're more reactive than we are proactive. And we're at a point where we think it's important to be more proactive here. And as this new revenue source is coming along, you'll see later that wastewater is in good shape as well. That's where each one employee would be funded from each utility, stormwater and wastewater, because that is the collection system or the mains that these employees would be focused on. This we're calling it a division, would be under Michael. So he would have a foreman that would manage these folks, and again be proactive in maintaining our sewer system. The other couple comments I would make, piece of equipment here for the forestry attachment that helps us clean the banks along the creeks and maintain quality stormwater by maintaining the banks. And then if you look all the way down at the bottom of the page, we're looking at a Muddy Creek tree and underbrush project behind what used to be BCI to clean that area up. Now that we're starting to take ownership some of these areas, we have better access to go in there, clean it up, make it look nice along our trail. So, that's what I would note for the storm utility fund, and would open it up for questions.
Is the funding of this department where you hoped it would be with these rate changes? Are you feeling better about covering the expenditures?
Yes, we are. In fact, we were running some numbers together. It appears that FY26, at least based on where we are at now, will come in closer to 500,000 this year. We're at 452. So again, we're being, I think, pretty conservative. So as buildings come on, think of the University of Iowa. They have a lot of impervious pavement. They're paying this fee. Then Russ updates the GIS maps, gets that information to our billing department, and they put it in and start billing. So that's a long answer, but yes, we are.
Okay. And then from the user standpoint, what was the feedback when this fee went into place, and has there been any pushback, or is it pretty understandable and agreeable?
It's been quiet unless you have.
We have not heard any feedback on the fees.
Okay, good.
Russ, have you heard anything?
I think we'd know.
Yeah. Nick, anything on your end?
So similar question to piggyback on the mayor. So with the revenues, the overall revenues, if we're adding FTEs, what's our current list of priority projects? We've been, Muddy Creek cleanup has been a big one of ours. We were deficited for a while. I remember a number of projects that we were up here having to cut and say we weren't funding. So are we able to balance that addition of FTEs? And does that FTE allow additional work to get some of the priority projects? So what are some of those priority projects, and will the FTEs allow us to get those done?
Yeah, so as far as priority projects, my goal when I took over almost 10 years ago was to get the complete city jetted and cambered. We've not gotten that done yet. At that time we had a staff of 8, and we're at a staff of 10 now, including me. So we've only grown 2 since that time. What I would look for this division to start immediately is that jetting, that videoing, that immediate maintenance that we just haven't had the ability to do staff-wise. And realizing that it's going to take, we can't start a division with 10 guys right away. It's just not financially feasible. But the equipment, the knowledge is in my team, and we can work with that new team to make it work. So my goal would be to continue you're going to see me each year come up here and want to add to that division to get that to where it needs to be. So we're still, as for your priorities, we're still playing catch up, I would say. And those other items are on the list. They'll be part of the discussion next week, as Ryan talked about, but they're not as prioritized as maintenance and just general maintenance of the systems.
And if you, to Michael's point, we will have all those projects listed out in the CIP. But if you take a look in FY28 and go all the way down, you can see it. We talk about restoring Goose Lake, Muddy Creek, and West Lake. That's a conglomeration of projects right there that we're talking about. Using some existing capital funds and the operating fund to try to tackle those projects. So they're close. They're much closer along than where we were.
He's heard this story. The mayor's heard it 1,000 times. I'm one of the reasons why I think citizens should be excited about this. I had a sewer backup in my house years ago. The very first project that your now not new jet truck did was my house, because my backflow preventer failed. And where the sewer main went from the house underneath Dubuque Street into the older part of town where the trees are mature and all of those tree roots got in there, we would have known had we had the time and the staff and the equipment to jet the system prior to the backup, but we didn't. And then Add on to that, folks that like to flush wet wipes, which are not flushable. The tree roots grab that, and then they end up in people's basements like mine. So this has been a long time coming. That was more than 10 years ago now that occurred in my home, and we've been talking about that ever since. So I share that story because we're seeing additional funding requests because of stories like that, and your explanation of why we have not been able to be proactive to make sure those things don't happen.
Yeah, and as new subdivisions come on, you're gaining new storm, you're gaining new sanitary, you're gaining new signs, streets, all that. So you're trying to keep up with current, what you've had, but you're also trying to keep up with new growth. So I think we've done as well of a job as we could have done in the confines that we have had. Mm-hmm. But I would love to do a lot better job. That would be my goal.
Thank you.
I'm encouraged by this also. Just, like you said, as we grow new, everyone loves, all the new growth and everything that's happening, but we can't, take our eye off the old part of North Liberty and making sure that all runs well. So I'm encouraged by this also.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Michael.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the water utility. And we have Greg Metternich is our water superintendent here this evening with us as well. You'll see this budget. The theme tonight, I should have mentioned, is paying off bonds, paying off loans. The theme here is this budget is going down slightly because we are paying off an old revenue debt, GO debt, that we encumbered a number of years ago. Otherwise, things in the water department are going to stay relatively status quo. A couple of the larger projects that are planned, actually it's really just one larger project that's planned. It's all the way down at the bottom under the water capital funds. You can see the summary, but we need to upgrade some of our water meter equipment, and Greg can talk a little bit more about that. It's really a technology thing, and so we have a 2-year schedule to invest about $500,000 into that equipment. We continue to set aside $80,000 a year for our membrane trains. You've all been in that water department. You've seen where those trains are at, and they're very expensive. So when it comes time to replace those, we want to make sure we have money set aside. We're doing something very similar with our wastewater membranes. And then lastly, setting aside $75,000 just in the capital reserve fund. Things come up, and Greg can certainly give you some stories, but when we have a well go down and we have to pull it, we can get a bill for $80,000 pretty quickly. So we just want to continue to make sure we have cash available for when those things, not if, but when those things happen, because they will. The last thing I would mention here, no new staff is proposed here. I do want to note in both utilities where we are proposing, I should say we will be proposing some sort of rate increase. You're seeing a 5% rate increase now, and as those of you who've been here for a while know, that we will reevaluate revenues and expenses in May and bring you an official recommendation. And the question that pops up in my mind looking at this is, we're sitting on a healthy reserve. Why do we need to look at rate increases? Well, for a period of, depending on the utility, 5 to 6 years, I think it was 5 in water, 6 in wastewater, we didn't raise rates, which was great. And that was right after we completed 2 major projects. And the reason we didn't have to raise rates is because we did so prior to those projects. Well, we have new projects coming up to keep up with the growth. And if we want to be eligible to borrow from the SRF program, or frankly, any lending institution, we have to have the rates set so that we're considered a safe risk when it comes time to borrow those funds. And Right now, we're in design with the water plant and wells upgrade project. We approved that agreement shortly before the end of the year. And I just was on a phone call today with the same engineer about wastewater, and we'll be bringing a task order to you probably in February to start design on the wastewater side of things. So I know, no one likes rate increases. Many of us in this room will ultimately have to pay it as well, but we do need to look at the financial viability of this system as we consider these large capital projects. And nothing in the world of utilities is inexpensive. It's all, as we've seen, very expensive when it comes to maintaining and adding on to. I will stop there and ask if there are any questions.
So, quick question for me, more of a formatting thing with the spreadsheet here. Are we projecting out to 2031, or is this for a couple years and there just wasn't room on the page?
Sorry, Paul, I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you looking at?
Well, it doesn't fit on the screen here, but below that, you have some highlighted upgrades and additions.
Can you go to the next page, Russ?
Those down
You're
at
talking
the
about
bottom.
the brown highlights
Yeah.
there? So what we're doing there, we have a 5-year CIP. And so this model reflects everything in the 5-year CIP. After that is really more of a guesstimate, but we want to keep those numbers somewhat similar so we know, we have an idea of what revenues we need to keep things operating. So the water and wastewater are the only ones that we run out 20 years, simply because when we have to submit for the SRF loan, they want to see a long-term projection. So that's why but as you know, it's hard to plan out 2 years, let alone 20. So a lot of that's just guesswork. But what's in the brown is capital improvements that have been vetted by the department head and other consultants on what we think we need to have happen. I don't know if that helps.
It does. I was curious if all these expenditures needed to happen in the next 2 years or.
No, they go with the
line. Okay, perfect.
The fiscal year. Yeah. Any questions on water?
I think we're done.
Okay, we'll move along to wastewater here. Drew Lammers is our wastewater superintendent. He's here this evening as well. What you're looking at is very similar to what you just saw in the water fund. And I would note here is where the additional collection employee would be funded from. So we have one from stormwater, one from wastewater. And while they're funded from these utilities, they would operate under the guidance of our street superintendent. A couple other things I would notice, again, I believe we had a bond payment come off this year, so that helped with obviously the budget numbers. When you look at large projects planned for this year, there's really just one, and that is upgrades to the Cedar Springs lift station, budget at $425,000. And certainly Drew can enthrall you with the details of the electrical components that need to be upgraded and the building that we want to bring in and house the equipment in. So if you have questions on that, we can bring him up. The other piece of this $625,000 is, or $685,000 is $220,000 being set aside for the membrane replacements. And here, this model, we have a little bit more detail than we did with water, simply because these membrane replacements, they come from Germany, Drew, or where do they? Hungry, okay. And so Drew every year sits down with his company. It seems like every year, it's probably not quite, and has to work out a contract on when we're going to be replacing these membranes. And when we first got into this membrane bioreactor plant, they told us a life expectancy was 10 years. A lot of you've heard me say this or Drew say this. What's our oldest membrane right now that's operating? 18 years. So we've made it last 8 years longer. And when we're replacing all these, it's significant money to replace these membranes. And so this model just shows, okay, we're setting aside money each year. We know in FY26 we're going to make and that number is actually going to change a little bit, but it was budgeted for $300,000 that we're going to pay that company to start a replacement project on the membranes. And you'll see through here all the way through 37 when different phases of the membranes are going to be replaced. And it changes regularly, again, because these guys are somehow getting 10-year membranes to last 18 years and still, having the quality of water be excellent. But it does get a little complicated and overwhelming for sure. So we're happy to answer any questions on that as well. But overall, this budget remains in good shape. When you look at the capital improvements that we anticipate starting design for here later this year, it's probably going to be well, you can see here, an annual payment is going to be about $3.3 million on the loan we're going to have to service for that. Again, that's why we're recommending rate increases. We have great fund balances for now, but you'll see we'll eat into those fund balances pretty quickly when debt starts coming on for the significance of these projects. I think phase one is about a $48 million project or somewhere in there. I'd have to look at the facility report, but it's significant. I'll stop. Drew is eager to talk to you. What questions do you have for him?
Just no way to get rid of that Cedar Springs lift station.
We've kicked the can on this controls cabinet a few years now.
To eliminate it totally.
Oh, totally.
Wasn't there a cost share with the HOA? Like, where's the HOA deal fall into this? Because there's been a lot of conversation about that over the years.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong here. It's called the Cedar Spring Lift Station because that's where it's located.
Yeah.
But all of the lift stations, and I don't think there's 10.
Is there 7?
7 lift stations in the back of Cedar Springs. Yes. Those are all paid for by the HOA.
HOA, okay.
They dump in then to our main. That Cedar Springs lift station, what area does that serve? Grant? We're doing so well.
He was doing well with not talking.
Yeah, those 7 lift stations all supply to that Cedar Springs.
But are there other neighborhoods that come into the Cedar Springs lift station?
Michael? Is it? Fox Run? Okay. It's our busiest lift station.
Yeah.
But everything in the back, all that private stuff that we put in, that's all paid for by.
Okay.
And I walk back there quite a bit. I see they have it managed now by a company called People Service. It's a private wastewater.
That's been
operator.
Hired by the HOA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We've been approached to take over those lift stations.
Yeah.
The resounding.
It's just the way that they were installed and constructed and designed really wouldn't benefit us much to take them over.
Right. So is it just age of equipment? Is it a pump? Is it the whole cabinet?
Both. The cabinet, so it's a 6x6 cabinet roughly. And in 2009, it was, we'd call it upgrading, but it was more just added to equipment. We went to larger pumps. That development was kind of filling out. And since then, some of that equipment has aged and it's so compact in there. The wiring, just the placement of things in there are not ideal. Last winter, it took 4 of our staff out there in like sub-zero temperature to create a tarp and a tent underneath there, heat it, and then kind of lay on your back upside down and unwire things and rewire things. Just wasn't really ideal in any situation. So this proposal for a building is, it's like a fully furnished building other than concrete laid out ahead of time, a slab concrete. They'll bring this building in. It's already been tested with all the components, the drives, arc safe cabinetry, so all the voltages are separated. So when somebody opens it up, you don't have high voltage mixed with low voltage. And you plug in the electricity to it and anchor it down to the ground, and you can fire it up and run it because it's already been tested in-house.
So there's a huge safety factor to staff built in?
Yes, safety factor for that. It keeps all of our controls in temperature controlled environment. So hopefully you're going to gain some life out of that. And hopefully we never have to use it or move it, but it is completely portable too. So if it had to go somewhere else, you just unanchor it, disconnect the power, and it can go somewhere else.
Are we going to realize any reduction in maintenance over the lifetime of the
It's more of a risk thing out there. I haven't purchased any new spare parts for that cabinet for that reason. Last year we did have to put 2 new soft start drives in there, but since that station's so busy, it only has about 12 minutes of downtime. So when we upsize or if we go to this building, we will put VFD drives in there, and we could expect probably a pump to run consistently at a lower hertz. We can ramp those pumps up and down that way, and then we don't have such surging all the time out there. So.
Is there any temporary equipment that's going to have to go in for the transfer?
We've got a generator that has a control cabinet built on the back of it that could possibly run at least one of those pumps on site. So there's some logistics we'd have to work through during that, but supplying a building that's fully set up like this is going to give us the least amount of downtime for something like this. Otherwise, it's a design, build, and then you're talking separate trades for every single component of that station.
How much downtime are you expecting, or how long will it take to make this change?
I'm not sure. I mean, the pumps have to stay running, obviously, or we have to bypass, which is really not ideal if the pumps are in place. So one of the vendors or suppliers that we looked at of this building, they have a portable control setup as well, so they can also offer some of those services to help accommodate this transfer over. So, but in length of time, I would assume a day or 2 days versus weeks of constructing and things like that. I mean, there'll be site placement and layout. There's a lot of details to work through on that end of it. But for the most part, the costs are there for what the building is and some of those other trades.
Nice. And the footprint of this building, how much different will it be from the existing
This is 8 by 8 building.
Oh, okay. There is no building there. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of something else there. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Okay, well, that was efficient. What the plan is, that is really our operating budget that we just talked through. So our plan then would be next week at our regular meeting, talking about the capital projects. Some of these folks will be back. Talking about, you notice there's nothing in here on hotel motel tax. We're still working on that model, very close to having that done. That'll be in there as well. And we'll then talk about some of these other projects. So that's what's planned for next week. I guess I would ask, while we have everyone here, is there any other questions for this team on the operating side of things?
I don't have any questions. I think it's important that this meeting is recorded and the general public can come back and watch it whenever they want to. There's a lot of discussion about cities becoming more efficient, and I think that you all operate this as if it's your family and it's your budget. and that is only to the benefit of our community. So I cannot thank you enough for the time and the effort that you've, not just in these past couple of months, but your day-to-day operations. And you instill that in everyone that's in your departments, and they carry that as well. We don't get a lot of pushback on the services that we provide. You meet those needs, and from a budgetary standpoint, this conversation for us is really a matter of a summary of what you're all doing out there, and extremely grateful for it compared to what it may have been 10 years ago. So, and that starts with you, and it filters out to all of you out there in the audience. So I can't thank you enough for what you're doing and the position that you continue to put the city in.
So I've been doing this a while now, and I can tell you every year the process gets more refined, smoother, more accurate, and I think that it's a testament to our administrative staff, and then for you guys all working under Ryan there to make sure everything that needs to get done is getting done.
It's the collaborative work. I don't think and I'm sure you would all hide these and never try to say these things, especially in front of council members, but I don't think I've ever heard of public arguments or any of you saying, well, guy got this at the expense of my department. There's never been any of that in my time on council. And it, to the mayor's point, it reflects in the services that you're providing with, quite frankly, little resource. We do our best up here to be efficient with taxpayer money. But we know and we see from the pickup that Guy drives to the dump truck that, Drew limped along for 10 plus years to, there's lots of things. Making mowers run for 15 years. I can't get a mower to run for 5 years on my lawn. It's impressive what this team does because of the collaborative work and the collaborative nature in which you do things as a team. And you're working together for the betterment of the city and not just for your one department. We see that, and the services that you're providing to the community are reflecting that. So, thank you.
I would echo everything that they said. And, before I got on the council, I, just enjoyed the city. Didn't really think, much about it. Didn't really know much about the nuts and bolts of everything that goes on. And just really impressed by all of you guys and appreciate all of you guys. I mean, even down to how the information is laid out in the spreadsheet, easy to understand. And so just, I guess, keep up the great work. We're grateful for all that you do, and you're really good at what you do. So we're blessed to have you. Thank you.
I already shared my comments, but I would just ask from my seat if you will take this sentiment, this encouragement, these comments back to your teams, back to your staff as well, and share them with those with a heartfelt thank you, because it's not often that they probably hear that as much as they probably should. You guys are the department head, you guys and gals are the department heads, but please take this messaging back to your staff as well with a heartfelt thank you from at least my seat and council as well.
I guess I've met all of you and still learning a lot of the ropes and everything, of course. But in the short amount of time that I have met each and every person throughout all of the city's functions and everything, I've been really impressed just with how all of the departments are run and the mindset of each of you. And I'm impressed, and thank you very much for everything that you do.
I think that's a wrap up.
Sounds good.
Any other final questions? No, I'm just kidding. We have a meeting next week to go over CIP. Anything else to add to tonight?
No.
Okay. Then it looks like item 10 is the adjournment, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Park, seconded by Leibold. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?